A developing tropical low in the Coral Sea, heavy rainfall across central Queensland, flooding concerns intensifying, and potential tropical cyclone development in the Indian Ocean. That is the weather situation facing Australia this weekend. I've analysed the latest from the Bureau of Meteorology, examined multiple forecast models, and worked through what this all means for different parts of the country over the next 7 to 10 days. There's a fair bit to cover, so let's get straight into it. Right now, the remnants of what was Tropical Cyclone Koji are still active across northwestern Queensland. The low pressure system is sitting right on the border between the Northern Territory and northwestern Queensland, tracking northwest. By the time you're rewatching this, it has likely moved into the Northern Territory. And here's what makes this significant. The System S maintaining its structure. It hasn't fallen apart. That means redevelopment becomes a strong possibility as it moves towards Darwin and the top end over the weekend. Whether the Bureau classifies this as the same system or designates it as Tropical Low 16U depends on how the circulation behaves over the next 24 hours. If the low unravels and reconnects with the monsoon trough, it gets a new designation. If it maintains its identity, it stays as Koji S remnants. Either way, the forecast doesn't change. The top end is in for an exceedingly wet weekend, particularly around Darwin, but the more immediate concern is what's happening right now across central and southwestern Queensland. Showers and thunderstorms are developing through a broad area with a particularly intense line of convergence sitting over the Mackay region, extending through the Whitsundays and into the central coast. This convergence delivered heavy rainfall overnight to the Clark Range, and it's exacerbated flooding concerns that were already developing over the past couple of days. There is also a clashing flow of air moving in from the northwest. Around Hewenden, north of Charters Towers, and through that pocket of country southwest of Townsville down towards Longreach, we're expecting an explosion of quite strong thunderstorms over the next few hours. This isn't your typical afternoon thunderstorm activity. The numerical forecast models are showing intense convection with very heavy rainfall accumulations. Some locations could see falls above 100 millimetres. One or two spots might push closer to 250 millimetres. These are tropical downpours in all their glory as we enter peak wet season. The concern here is flash flooding. Central Queensland has already been flood ravaged lately. Northwestern Queensland S been dealing with flooding as well. And now this rainfall is connecting those flood affected areas together. The Peru and Diamantina River catchments are seeing renewed flooding concerns. Widespread impacts are expected, particularly tonight and into Friday. The good news, if there is any, is that the worst of the rainfall should steer clear of the most severely flood-affected areas in northwestern Queensland. But central Queensland, you are copping it. Be prepared for road closures, property inundation in low-lying areas, and significant disruption. Now, pushing this forecast forward into the weekend, that low pressure system we talked about heading into the Northern Territory is going to survive the journey. The models are quite consistent on this. By Saturday and Sunday, we are looking at renewed development, either as Koji redeveloping or as a new system spinning up in the monsoon trough. Either way, Darwin and surrounding areas through the top end are in for extremely wet conditions. And here's where it gets interesting. The monsoon trough is strengthening. There is a tropical low developing out in the Coral Sea, which I'll get to in a moment. These systems are going to enhance moisture flow down through the Arafura Sea and into the Gulf of Carpentaria. That means heavy showers and thunderstorms across the Carpentaria coast, likely from Saturday through early next week. Cape York Peninsula stays a bit drier for now. Still some showers and thunderstorms, particularly where converging winds set up along the Cassowary coast through Saturday and Sunday. But the really significant rainfall for Cape York won't arrive until early next week when the monsoon low in the Coral Sea properly develops. Speaking of which, let us talk about the Coral Sea situation. There are two systems we need to discuss out there, and both have implications for Australia and our neighbours. The first system is Tropical Low 14U. Currently it is a broad, messy area of low pressure heading northeast. Development over the next couple of days will be slow, but as it approaches Vanuatu, conditions become more favourable. The forecast models are now showing this system likely becoming a tropical cyclone, not a particularly strong one, mind you. Category 1, possibly Category 2, maybe Category 3, given that at S expected to remain quite large. Here, S the track, northeast towards Vanuatu, then a U-turn back towards New Caledonia. There is a reasonable chance of tropical cyclone development in that black outlined area on the Bureau S charts. As it crosses New Caledonia and moves towards Norfolk Island and eventually New Zealand, it'll be pushed southeast by the jet stream. That jet stream acts as a barrier. The system can move any closer to the Australian mainland than where that steering flow sits. So direct impacts to Queensland, very unlikely from this particular system. However, and this is important, there's a second area we're re-watching. Early next week, somewhere between the 20th and 23rd of January, the monsoon trough in the Coral Sea is expected to spin up another tropical low. This one sits much closer to the Queensland coast. The exact position is still uncertain. It could develop in the Gulf of Carpentaria or it could form out in the Coral Sea itself. If it develops in the Gulf, far north Queensland sees limited rainfall. If it develops further east in the Coral Sea, far north Queensland gets maximal rainfall. That's the zone of uncertainty right now. We know a system will develop. Where it develops and how it impacts the coast, that becomes clearer over the next 3 to 5 days. Now let's turn our attention west to the Indian Ocean because this is where things could get particularly interesting. Remember that low pressure system currently over northwestern Queensland, that S heading into the Northern Territory? The forecast models are now showing that energy potentially making it all the way across the top end and out into the Joseph Bonaparte Gulf and the Timor Sea. If that happens, if Koji S remnants or whatever this system becomes can get itself offshore into the Indian Ocean, it's going to intensify rapidly. The conditions out there are almost perfect for tropical cyclone development. Sea surface temperatures are approaching 32 degrees Celsius close to the coastline, 31 degrees in the open ocean. Wind shear is minimal between 5 and 10 knots. That S ideal, just enough to enhance outflow without tearing the system apart. Deep tropical moisture is in place. There's not much that could stop a system from intensifying once it gets offshore. This is a concern for Western Australia, particularly the Kimberley and Pilbara coastlines. Now, to be absolutely clear, you are not in panic mode. There's no need for preparations right now. Do not cancel plans. This system may not even develop, and if it does, it could track anywhere from Karratha up to Kununurra or Wyndham. The possibilities are wide open, but this serves as an excellent reminder. We're now in the back half of tropical cyclone season. Significant storms are likely across the Kimberley and Pilbara from this time of year onwards. You need to have your tropical cyclone plans ready to go at a moment's notice. You need to be monitoring the forecast daily. And right now, with this situation developing on the models, you need to be checking back in regularly to stay on top of the latest information. Let me show you what the probability maps are indicating. Looking at tropical storm strike possibilities for the week between the 19th of January and the 26th Australia Day, we're seeing moderate to high chances of a system with gale force winds in excess of 34 knots developing offshore from Western Australia. The blue shading on those probability maps, that S high confidence. The models are converging on this scenario. Similarly, their S solid confidence for tropical cyclone development around New Caledonia and Vanuatu. We've already got 14U out there, so that SA given. But the middle ground, the Gulf of Carpentaria and Coral Sea area, that is showing increased probability as well, particularly for tropical low development, even if it doesn't reach cyclone intensity. So where does this leave us practically? Let's break it down by region. For Queensland, particularly central and inland areas, tonight through Friday, you are dealing with very heavy rainfall and flash flooding. Have your emergency kit accessible. Know your local flood warnings and evacuation routes. If you are in a flood-prone area and you've been through this recently, you know the drill. Stock up on essentials before the system intensifies tonight. If the power is at risk, fill the bathtub with clean water. Gives you drinking water and flushing water if supply gets cut. For far north Queensland and Cape York, the weekend stays relatively settled, but early next week brings uncertainty. Monitor the monsoon trough development closely. Where that system spins up determines your rainfall. Stay across the Bureau S forecasts. For the Northern Territory, particularly Darwin and the top end, prepare for an extremely wet weekend. The monsoon S strengthening, and whether it S Koji redeveloping or a new tropical low forming, you are in for heavy rainfall Saturday through Monday. Ensure your property drainage is clear. Secure loose items. Stock up on supplies if you are in remote areas. For Western Australia, Kimberley and Pilbara residents, you are on watch, not on alert. Review your tropical cyclone plans now while there's no pressure. Make sure you know where your important documents are, where you to go if evacuation was necessary, how you to secure your property. Check your emergency supplies, batteries, water, tinned food, medications, not because you need to use them this week, but because it's good practice during cyclone season. And mate, if you've got livestock, you know the drill. Make sure they've got access to high ground and shelter. For the rest of the country, you are watching this unfold from a distance, but keep an eye on it. These systems influence broader weather patterns. The monsoon S strength affects moisture flow across northern Australia. And if a cyclone does develop in the Indian Ocean, it'll impact conditions across the northern half of the continent. Now let's put this in some historical context. Many of you remember past January cyclones. 1974, Cyclone Wanda in January, then Tracy at Christmas. 2006, Cyclone Larry hit far north Queensland on the 20th of March, but the build-up started in January. 2011, Cyclone Yasi, early February, but the active monsoon began weeks earlier. The point is this: late January through February is prime time for significant tropical cyclone activity across northern Australia. What we're seeing now, multiple areas of development, strong monsoon trough, favourable ocean temperatures. This is typical peak season behaviour. It's not unusual, it is not unexpected, it is what January and February look like in Australia's tropics. The difference this year is the breadth of potential development. We've got systems threatening from the Coral Sea right across to the Indian Ocean. That's a wide field of play. It means forecasters are tracking multiple scenarios simultaneously. It means uncertainty is higher than if we were just watching one straightforward system. But here's what we do know with confidence. The monsoon trough is active and strengthening. Tropical moisture is abundant. Sea surface temperatures are well above average for tropical cyclone development. Wind shear is low across key development areas. Multiple low-pressure systems are either spinning up now or expected to develop over the next 7 to 10 days. These are the ingredients, whether they come together to produce significant cyclones and where those systems track, that is what we're remonitoring hour by hour. For those of you who fish, farm or work outdoors across northern Australia, plan for disruption, plan for heavy rainfall, plan for rapidly changing conditions. The next fortnight could be quite active. For those travelling through northern Australia, check conditions daily before you head out. Road closures are likely, particularly in central Queensland right now. If you are planning trips into remote areas of the Kimberley or Cape York, have contingency plans. Satellite phones, if you've got them. Let people know your itinerary. For everyone, the Bureau of Meteorology remains your primary source. I am interpreting the models and providing analysis, but official warnings, official evacuation orders, official advice comes from the Bureau, from SES, from local emergency services. When they issue warnings, take them seriously. These organisations have access to real-time data and coordination that goes beyond what any forecast can provide. One final thought on where this could all head. By the end of January, we could be tracking 2, possibly 3 active tropical systems simultaneously. One in the Coral Sea affecting Queensland and the Coral Sea Islands. One in the Gulf of Carpentaria or Arafura Sea affecting the Northern Territory. One in the Indian Ocean affecting Western Australia. That would be a complex forecast scenario, but it's not out of the question given current model outputs. Alternatively, these systems could fail to develop as strongly as forecast. The Coral Sea low could remain weak. Koji S remnants could dissipate rather than redevelop. The Indian Ocean threat could fizzle. Weather forecasting, particularly tropical forecasting a week out, contains inherent uncertainty. That S, why we monitor it daily. That S, why updates matter. What I'm confident about this weekend through early next week is an active period for Northern Australia. Heavy rainfall is certain for parts of Queensland and the Northern Territory. Flooding is ongoing and will worsen in some areas. Tropical development is likely in multiple locations. Beyond that, we are rewatching, analysing and updating as new data comes in. So that S where we sit on Thursday afternoon, the 15th of January, multiple systems in play, an active monsoon, peak cyclone season conditions, and a forecast that requires close attention over the coming days. Check back tomorrow for updates, particularly regarding that Queensland rainfall tonight and the Northern Territory setup for the weekend. Monitor the Bureau S warnings. Stay safe, stay informed, and don't take unnecessary risks in flood-affected areas. If you found this analysis useful, I'd appreciate your support. And if you've got mates in affected areas, particularly central Queensland tonight or the top end this weekend, make sure they read across the forecast. This is weather that deserves attention and respect, even if it's not panic-worthy. Be prepared, not scared. That's the approach. I'll have more updates as this situation develops. For now, that's the forecast.